How's everybody doing out there? This is the Cool Club. I am the Glitch Trap. Bonk, bonk, bong. Let's go ahead and talk about the good, the bad, and the very ugly of Evil Dead Rises. Why does all of these movies have to be a reboot of something? Why does Evil Dead have to rise? It's risen about 50 times. Evil Dead risen in Evil Dead 2. If you look at the original Evil Dead, then you look at Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2 was like the same premise. I'm just being real. They went back to the cabin. It was like Ash had never even had recollection of coming to the cabin before. Then you had Evil Dead, which was the actual sequel, which was Army of Darkness. Army of Darkness was cool. We wanted to see the continuation of that. They never did another movie to follow up on the cliffhanger ending. What we ended up getting was the show, Ash versus the Evil Dead, or something like whatever. Evil Dead versus Ash. Either way, you had the show that came out, and that was actually pretty good. That show was pretty good. Even though Bruce Campbell had got significantly older, they revamped it with two new characters. They reinvigorated it with two younger characters to help him out. So I thought that was cool. That was fine. Evil Dead ended there. We didn't need anything else. But okay, they decided to do another one. And what you get from this is basically Bruce Campbell isn't in the movie anymore. He was replaced by female actress Lily Sullivan. You also have the cast, Gabriel Eccles playing Bridget, Nell Fisher playing Cassie, and Alyssa Sutherland playing Ellie. What I will say that's part of the good about this movie is Alyssa Sutherland is great. She's like a great actress as being creepy when it comes to being creepy, when it comes to being deceptively evil. She's great at doing that, and I gotta give her credit. She's a great part of the movie. Even Lily Sullivan did a great job. All the actors in this movie did a great job, I will say, except the couple of the supporting characters. I think this guy's name Gabriel, the guy who played Gabriel in the movie, he was like a tenant who stayed there as well. That guy there was dumb as a box of rocks. You didn't really care if he was on screen or not. So that's definitely, he's part of the bad. But as far as for the most part though, the actors were great. They did what they were supposed to do in the film. So I can't knock that. Another thing, of course, Evil Dead always has good creepy visual effects. And I will say one thing that I thought was gonna be I was gonna use as a bad point. It's actually a good thing, and that's the setting. The setting of changing it from a cabin to actually having it happen having the evil come into an abandoned apartment building is actually a good change of pace. I will say I like that. I thought it was gonna be awkward because you're so used to seeing Evil Dead in the cabin, and then we saw it in medieval times. But to have the Evil Dead running, because we saw in medieval times in Army of Darkness, they had their own army. But here, it's just a great. It's the movie. The setting of the movie is just as creepy as the things going on itself. There is no lights in the apartment building. Everything goes off. It's not many tenants. It's basically a condemned, cheap building. So I thought that was great. Another good thing, like I said, just the visual effects themselves. All of the sound effects was great too. They definitely got that on point when they were reading from the Necronomicon when she was playing the record. The sound was creepy. The voice dubs that they did for some of the characters when they had their creepy demonic moments. I loved all of that. That was good. Now, let's get to the bad. The bad is there's no Ash. There's no tie to the latter films except from the Necronomicon. That, like, except for the Necronomicon, that's a book that raises the dead. That's the only thing that's tying this Evil Dead connection. They say the line "Dead Before Dawn," all of that, but it's not in the same. It's definitely not in the same spirit of creepiness. Like Ash and Evil Dead had like a campy cult creepiness to it. This here is more along some Blumhouse work. Just the setting, the lighting, and the atmosphere itself kind of again reminds you of a Blumhouse ghost movie type of feel, ambiance. But I will still put the atmosphere, the environment. I'll stick to what I said, and that's in the good category. But you in the bad, you had just, I don't know why, it just feels like they had to swap everyone out with women. Like, I don't know why it feels like they just had to do that, like that was forced. But you have the female Ash, you have the males that's basically been reduced to background characters. They're not very competent. The one guy who I mentioned earlier, when it's a scene, well, you'll see it, and when he gets attacked, you're gonna be looking like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, this guy is like, there's levels of all of the male characters. There's like high levels of incompetence within them, and it's like, it's typical to me. That's becoming typical with a lot of movies, and I just don't like the gender swap. Same way I'm not a fan of the race swap. You don't have to do that. Like, why? Like, this has no ties besides the Deadites and the book. And I get that. This is trying to be a reboot of this as a Rising, but come on, you just don't need to. You could have made this anything. This could have been its own standalone film. You didn't have to call it Evil Dead. You could have called it Evil Rising. And that would have been fine. That would have been sufficient. You would have been able to this movie still would have been good. You didn't need to use the Evil Dead name because it didn't really put you in the Evil Dead feel. But it was still an interesting movie. And I wouldn't say go, if you like horror films, to not go see this, because I enjoyed it. I mean, I will say that. Now, the ugly, again, the main thing is the gender swap. That's just the main thing. Other than that, you pretty much, like I said, you get I can't I don't have anything just horrible to say about this film. Out of a scale from 1 to 10, I would give Evil Dead Rises a 7. A 7 out of 10. Yes. I would give it a 7 out of 10. Even though it's a reboot. Even though, even I hate those, and I don't like I said, they could have called this movie anything, and it would have still been a 7 out of 10. It didn't. The Evil Dead name led nothing to this movie. Nothing. Dead Before Dawn, me hearing not like nothing. It just, you could have recited an incantation from any book, and it would have been sufficient for the film. So with that being said, Evil Dead Rises a 7 out of 10, and that's from the Glitch Trap. 7 out of 10. I recommend, if you're into horror movies, go see it, check it out. With that being said, I am the Glitch Trap. This is the Cool Club. I'm gone.